Um, Welcome back again. So let's finish up with this assignment, which is the second part, the histogram. You like? I have a whole bunch of them. Um, so I made some changes because when I met with one of the students during office hours, and we went over the original um, program that I had put over here, there were some issues. I guess we didn't notice that when we were running them in class. So there were some issues because first of all, we used the length of the list to start the loops and to add values to it. And so originally there was no such a thing. We didn't have this over here, right? If you remember. I mean, if you can see that it's right here. Actually, it should be out of there anyways. Yeah, this is what it was originally, and it didn't make sense because then it couldn't run because the length was 0 and this will never run. And then nothing will happen because there's only one iteration when it's 0. So making things work, we changed it to have those 8 zeros because that's what we were expecting to actually input 8 numbers because we're drawing a histogram. So that will not work. So if we go back to the changes that I made to the original assignment, which is 5 to 1, right? I added a new variable. The variable has the value of 8. And I could have put 8 over here, right here, where we're going to change this, right? This. But we don't like to do that. That is kind of a bad practice. So we're going to say that just using a number without knowing what it means is just bad programming practice. We're not doing that, okay? We're going to do something just a little bit different. Not significantly different in terms of what it means, but in terms of having good programming practices that, okay, this is minor, but in the future it could be something bigger. We call that, we call this magic numbers. Magic numbers. You wonder why are they magic numbers? And it's because we don't really know what they mean. What are they, right? An 8 over there. Let's say you have a 12 and you collected information from, I don't know, the months of the year. Then you would make a variable that is pretty much associated with that. And over here, we use a lot of n for input. So you can call it something else, but make sure that you don't use a keyword to call that. N to me is good enough. So I am going to actually replace that line with n. So we're telling this for loop that we're going to iterate 8 times, n times. And in this case, n is 8. The other good thing about using variables is that you could just go and change the number over here. If that number 8 shows up all over the place, because there will be programs in which you will be tempted to put the actual number everywhere there, then you will have to go looking for each number to see where it is and change it to whatever new number is. But if you use a variable that is used throughout the whole program, when that variable changes, all you have to do is one change. So that will avoid a lot of little problems that you will be scratching your head trying to figure out what went wrong. All right, so that will be consistent also with the latest update to that assignment. Let me save this. Also, while we was in office, I was with this student of mine. I realized that maybe we should break these things up. He actually brought up very good points. So let's use, I like it when the students ask questions because it helped me understand what is it I should be talking about. When you do something for a while, you kind of forget. No, this is not what I want. You take for granted a lot of things that other people don't know. And that is definitely something that I need to address. And with your questions, that will help me give you a better lesson. So if you are one of those students who feel, I don't want to answer the question because I don't want to sound silly or something like that. No, don't think that way. You are helping me, the teacher, and the rest of the students who probably have the same questions, have a good lesson. So based on that conversation that I had, I took chess the first part, and we worked on this only. So I'm gonna make some. I'm gonna put this one away for a little while because anyway, right here's the rest, right? Yeah. So I can put this one away, and I'm gonna make the changes over here. So it is good practice. It is good programming practice to use a variable instead of a number. Using just a number for, I don't know, let's say control, or just, displaying information is also called magic numbers, because nobody knows what they mean. I mean, what are they doing there? And that's why I'm going to say n is equal to 8. The reason why we pick 8 is because we're prompting the user for only 8 integer numbers. So this is not in the original program. I put it there for a different reason, and we're going to go over that in a minute, because obviously this student had a very good question over here. And this is what he would say, sounds like, something magic is happening here. Why is all this here, right? So we can run this, and I'm going to show you the difference between having something with the formatting aspect, which is this line over here. My input has a formatting there, as opposed to doing these two lines here. I'm printing this, right? And then I ask for input. So these two lines right here do the equivalent of this line, but with a much different format. And I'm going to show you how that's possible, or what it looks like. So I'm going to make this smaller. You see, this is going to become really useful. I'm going to make this only 2. It's because I want to compare the output or the format of these two, this particular line of code, in which it has something in here that you never seen before in the input statement instruction. So let me save this, and let me run it, and let's see what we get. See if I made any silly mistakes anywhere. This moved to a different location right here. Yeah. I think it's going to run twice. So I'm going to put a number. It's not going to do anything right now. Okay. It's going to end right here. And now I'm going to show you when we eliminate, when we do it the way we have done it so far. And let me comment out this line. I want you to look at the difference between what we did and what we're going to do now. So what happened? Look at the cursor, where it is. I will have to enter information right here. And then the next one. Yeah. So here you have a nice format in which you enter the information. Your input is right next to the actual prompt. So this over here is allowing you to do that. By default, it's giving you one space, all the spaces right here, right? So here it's just taking whatever it is you input in, but you could change that. You can make it a bigger field. You might want to move it away from the actual prompt line a little bit further out without having to put a whole bunch of spaces right here. So let me comment out these two lines because they're only there for teaching you a little bit of what this means, because we're going to use this format. It's much better. And you're wondering what the format is like. Well, once again, if the percentage symbol is inside a string, and this is a string, it's talking about format. In this case, there is only one percentage symbol. That means that there will be only one matching value that you are formatting. We start with a 1 instead of a 0 because when we do for I in range, it's going to be from 0 to n minus 1. So we want it to look a little bit different. We don't want to start with integer 0, right? That's not the natural way of asking a user to enter information. So that's the first part. That seems to be important that I discuss it because I took it for granted that it was obvious. All right, so the next thing will be then, here we're going to do this part over here. Let me uncomment this. And let's see what we have over here. Here we're going to create the histogram itself. Here you have the first line over here. It's just the title, creating a histogram from this particular list. And then we have again format for the output. This is a print statement. The other one was an input, right? So we have a total of 3 percentage symbols. So there should be 3 values that you want to display. And as you can see, they're all strings, right? So what is the actual code for that? Well, it's the letter S for a string. He is actually taking, not doing anything in particular. It's not adding in front or after the actual value any spaces. Here is actually doing that. It says, I want this information to show in 10 spaces. So value will be right justified in a field wide of 10 characters. Then histogram will also be doing that. 10 spaces, and it will be a right justified. Then we have the for loop. The for loop also has a format. Take a look. Over here we have digits. So this first one is matched up with the I, which is the index of this for loop. The next information is also a value. Right here is an integer. And so we have 10 digits for it, and it's going to be right justified. And then here we have something that it doesn't have a specific length. So it leaves it up to the actual value to determine the length of it. And everything is going to be next to each other, but it's going to be right justified. Well, actually, the last one is not right justified. It's going to be just right next to whatever is next after whatever was printed before that. So let's change n to 8. So we have something looking good. And we can understand what's happening here. So again, remember, it's prompting the user for 8 numbers. And this is a very simple histogram, a histogram in which we already know the number of occurrences for each of those numbers from 1 through 10. No, from 1 through 8. And the values are between 1 and 10. So this histogram already has the frequency. We are entering the frequency. There will be another assignment in which you will have to figure out the frequencies. So let's run it. Let me first save it. I'm going to run it, and let's take a look at what it looks like. So I'm going to try to make a histogram that is very symmetric, like a bell curve. So I'm going to start with a 0. Remember, we have a total of 8 bars in this histogram. So I'm going to try to move along 4 could be the middle of 5. And then I'm going to start decreasing. Maybe I put it, yeah, a 4, a 2, and then a 1. And there it is. So here we see how the histogram, the number, actually, this number controls the number of times the stars show up for each of them. How does it do that? Well, if we use shell for a moment, I can do this. I can say print, and I'm going to show you how would that work, and then we can look at it in the actual program. This is the symbol that I want to print. Well, how many times? How many times do I want to print it? Let's say we want to print it 10 times. And there it is. So this is probably one of the very few things also, again. Oh, let me rephrase that. One of the many things this language can do. It would allow you to propagate or multiply characters. You can actually do that with numbers too, without really thinking of it as a multiplication in math. Like, for example, you will have to turn it into an integer, right? So let's say it's 3. So if I want to have a repetition of that number, how many times? Let's say 5, then you can do that. And you will see 5 3s. Okay. So since this is a literal, numerical literal, it's not applying the multiplication of algebra, right? It's just applying the multiplication of a string, which is repeating the string as many times as I say over here. Knowing that, now we can go back here to the program and understand that this returns or access information from the list. And that information is coming based on the index. And the index tells you how many times you're going to be multiplying this asterisk. And the way we did that is by inputting those numbers into the list, the int values. That's pretty much it. I hope with this you have enough information to do your own histogram and finish up everything. I think there's only one thing left, which is, yeah, you can do that. Oh, the reading. Let's talk about the reading. So the reading is kind of a very common language to ask for input. Yeah, that's what it represents. That's why I put it into quotes, because I wanted to write it up. And then it says, use the list to solve the following problem, reading 6 numbers. So you prompt the user for 6 numbers as input. And then as each number is read, you want to print it only if it is not a duplicate of a number already read or input. So I'm not going to show you the answer to this one. We're going to discuss it in class. I expect you to do it because I think you can do this, okay? I'll talk to you soon. Bye.